I'm Shree. I work at Procedure. I am a backend slash DevOps generalist. So I've sort of dumbed down the problem here. I wanted to figure out how to sort of optimize a deployment pipeline. So I read a tweet by Charity Majors, and what she described was you would want your backend services or any services that you're deploying should be deployed in like less than 5 minutes or so. That sort of helps true CI. That's what's one of the ethos of true CI/CD was. And I sort of went, I looked at what services that we are running, and I sort of looked at one of the services that we were running, and it took about like 6 or 7 minutes to deploy. So I figured out how to sort of optimize it. Oh, wow, the sensitivity on this is insane. Yeah. So our deployment script was very simple. You build and so we merged to master main. We build a Docker image, and then upload the image to ECR, and then update the K-test deployment with a new image. Steps 1 and 2, it was like we always used to rebuild the whole requirements, rebuild the whole Docker image, and it was not optimal use of resources. We were consuming a lot. We were wasting a lot of compute, and yeah, I mean my CEO was very pissed off. I was consuming his enterprise plan minutes, so yeah. So yeah, I mean, I sort of had to figure out some solution. I came across a plugin called GitHub State. So let's say you run a GitHub action, you can store some state, and let's say you run an action again, you can go back to that state and see what has changed. One thing what I did was building the requirements while building the Docker image. It took 80 to 90% of the time. What I did was, and let's say whenever devs were pushing new changes to new changes to production, most of the times it was not changes to requirements or adding new dependencies, it was mostly code changes. But every deployment triggered a new build in terms of requirements and stuff. So what I did was, the logic is basically, I hashed the requirements file and the dependencies file. I stored it in a state branch. This is done by the plugin that I use. And let's say, and on subsequent deployments, it sort of compared the hash with the current changes to the previous change. If the hash does not change, I do not have to build my base. So I have 2 Docker images. I have a base Docker image where all the requirements and everything is already built. And then I have another build process where I use the base Docker image and then add the current code that has changed and built on top of it. So use the hash, very simple, sort of dumbed it down. Yeah, so I'm sort of stuck with what right now is. I sort of want more opinions on how to sort of do this if you guys have figured it out. Right now it's very GitHub centric, relying on a particular plugin to store state. Not probably the ideal way to do this, but it sort of gets the job done. But yeah, this is what I did. We sort of reduce our deployment times from 6 to 7 minutes to less than a minute. Allows us to be more confident while pushing prod changes as well. Like I could get to prod like in a minute or 2, right? And let's say someone fucks up production, hot fixes are very quick. So yeah, devs have much more confidence building and pushing to production. That was it. Thank you.